I'm going to start on a new book. It's a small one. It's called Man, What a God by Mervyn Maxwell, printed by the Pacific Publishing Association. Copyright 1970. Greater Than Our Greatest Need, Chapter 1. I was one of 4 college teachers on a TV panel assigned to discuss the existence of God. All at once, the professor at my right turned to me and asked, "Do you really mean to say that the students where you teach come out of their laboratories still believing in God? Don't you know that Copernicus drove God out of the universe 400 years ago?" To which I replied, "The students where I teach come out of their labs believing in God more firmly than when they went in. Science, far from proving God doesn't exist, constantly provides even greater evidence that he does. And what a God it portrays. I shall never forget the night when my wife and I stood on the Chicago shore of Lake Michigan and searched the sky for one of those earliest Sputniks. The voice at the newspaper office had told us at the phone exactly where it would appear, about 10:30 p.m., how high in the sky, around 45 degrees above the horizon, and the direction which it would be traveling, due south. We were ready. At 10:30 we focused our eyes 45 degrees above the horizon, facing northeast. Right on time, precisely where we were searching, there it was. Its light was the same clear color as the stars and about the same intensity. But it was easy to tell the difference. This star was moving rapidly, and its light was pulsating off and on as it tumbled gently in its flight. A thrill of excitement went through me. As a child, I had heard of my older brother say that a ball could be made to fly clear around the earth if only someone could be found to hit it hard enough. I believed him implicitly and often turned the idea over in my mind. What a fantastic possibility. I can still see an imaginary ball sailing out over the corner of our backyard on its way into orbit. Of course, I knew such a thing could never happen. But here it was happening, right before my eyes. Then I looked up into the heavens and watched as a shining satellite fade into the orange haze above Gary and Hammond in the south. The sky all at once seemed disturbingly crowded. A Bible verse I had learned to recite in childhood raced through my mind. The heavens declare the glory of God, Psalms 19:1. But this time it insisted, the heavens declare the glory of man. The presence of the shining Sputnik seemed to profound violation of the fundamental principle. It had no right to be there. I had been taught that the stars prove the unique power of an omniscient creator. But here was a new star claiming equal power for man. For a fleeting second, I felt myself thinking of an agnostic or an atheist. But then I gave it further thought. The Russians had laughed at America's first tiny satellite and called it a grapefruit. Here in the sky now was one of theirs, and it wasn't much larger than, say, a garbage can. Not much bigger than one of the breakwater rocks lying at my feet on the shore of Lake Michigan. Marvelous and sophisticated as it was, the Sputnik was a very little thing compared with our little Earth, let alone the rest of the universe. The stars up there, the other stars beyond the Sputnik, shine on and on forever. No astronomer has any idea how many there are or how long they've been there. Scientists estimate there are at least 200 million stars in our Milky Way galaxy, and they compute that more than a billion such galaxies exist in the universe as a whole. That is, they used to tell us this when we thought the edge of the universe was 350 million light years away. But in 1963, astronomers found a quasar that appeared to be emitting radio and light energy millions of times more powerful than all the stars in our entire Milky Way put together. They labeled it 3C273 and identified it with a faint star they formerly had supposed belonged to our private galaxy. Only now their calculations indicated that it was a billion light years away, 3 times as far from us as we had previously supposed the outer rim of the universe to be. Since then, Martin Schmidt had found another quasar that might be 4 to 8 billion light years away. Suddenly, what seemed we once had thought to our entire universe was turned out to be a neighborhood, a housing development, a small suburb of the real universe that goes on, perhaps forever. What does that all prove about God? Did that Sputnik launch itself into space? Did the great Apollos of today bolt themselves together, blast off from their pads, and shed their lunar modules to land within feet of their targets on the moon by chance? It takes a worldwide team of highly trained men to make them succeed. Thus, space-age science offers compelling proof of the existence of a living God. A spacecraft, relatively tiny as it is, cannot get into orbit without a living brain to plan it for it. What nonsense, then, to suppose that a trillion island universes can soar through space without an infinite intelligence to guide them. The heavens declare the glory of God, and man, what a God they declare. When an archaeologist finds a primitive stone arrowhead buried under river gravel in an abandoned cave, he says, "Here is evidence of ancient civilization. People used to live here." But when a paleontologist finds a complex trilobite fossil exposed in the Cambodian rockslide, he often is prone to say, "Here is evidence that there is no God." Complex animal life developed by chance. But this is not the kind of reasoning that commends itself to everyone, least of all to many inquiring teenagers. A survey made recently in 1956, after a century of evolutionary instruction in life, October 8, 1965, said that more than half of all the United States high school students were still unwilling to accept evolution as a valid hypothesis. The students where I teach are not the only ones who come out of the laboratory still believing in God. They are right. Copernicus did not drive God out of the universe 400 years ago. If anything, he provided evidence more certain than ever that he is in command.